Level 1. You are already racing down the runway, and the concrete under the wheels is shaking like the base itself is trying to throw you back. The radio crackles in your helmet, green numbers jump across the HUD, the lights along the runway blur into white streaks. You push the throttle the rest of the way, feel the seat crush into your back, and in that same moment something slams into the left engine. Short, dull, like a rock hitting an iron barrel. The jet jerks to the side. A warning flashes across the panel. The temperature needle starts crawling upward, and the dry voice from the tower tells you to confirm climb out. You do not answer right away. First, you pull your shaking hand off the throttle, check the parameters, catch the nose, level the bank, and only then force the report out of yourself. The base lights are still under you, the dark desert is ahead, and sweat is already running under your mask even though the air conditioning is blowing cold against your knees. You grit your teeth, raise the gear, hear the controller give you a heading back to base, and realize the whole sortie has collapsed into a single minute. Your fingers slip across the checklist like the gloves suddenly have half the sensitivity they had before. You read the items out loud, skip one, catch yourself, make the turn, and head back to the runway. After touchdown, the brakes smell burned. A fire truck is already racing beside you, and a tech at the hold short line lifts a flashlight toward the intake. Dark blood and feathers are smeared across the metal. The bird did not just hit the engine. It flew straight into your rhythm. Level 2. 40 minutes later, you are no longer the guy who brought a crippled jet home. You are just a man in a sweat-soaked t-shirt, sitting under white lights in the debrief room with a paper cup of coffee that went cold a long time ago. A screen on the wall is replaying the flight data. The instructor drags the slider back, runs the strike again, and does not look at you when he asks why you delayed your call by almost 4 seconds. 4 seconds sound ridiculous until they are laid next to speed and altitude numbers. Then it stops being a detail and becomes a crack in trust. You tell him you stabilize the jet first. He nods, but then taps the checklist with his pen. One item was skipped, then completed late. The squadron commander stays quiet longer than he needs to, and that pause hits harder than any shout. After the debrief, you step out into the hangar, where your F-15 is already surrounded by maintainers. One of them, the senior crew chief, wipes his hand on a rag and says, without any mockery and almost with sympathy, "The jet will survive. What matters is that you don't start twitching before the airplane does." You take your scheduled tablet and walk across the hot concrete toward the squadron building, passing 2 pilots who just showed up for the morning brief. One claps your shoulder. The other asks what it was like up there. You answer too shortly because you do not want to talk about the pause on the radio. In the locker room, you peel off your G-suit, see your fingers shaking, and hide them in your pocket. Your phone is already stacked with notifications, the pickup autopay, the insurance bill, a message from your ex that you did not answer yesterday. The day has barely started, and you already feel like you have lost something, even though you did land the jet. Level 3. The alarm goes off at 4:37, and you do not wake up, you surface. In the 1-bedroom apartment outside the base, it smells like yesterday's pizza and the synthetic detergent you use on your flight gear. On the kitchen table are your keys, your logbook, an unpaid bill for the air conditioner repair, and a letter from the bank saying your credit card rate went up again. You open the fridge, see a couple of eggs, an energy drink, and a plastic container with dry chicken in it, close the door, and instead of breakfast, swallow gas station coffee on the drive to base. At the gate, security forces check your pass, and the guy with the carbine does not even look you in the face. He just scans the badge, hands it back, and waves you through. The squadron smells like paper, jet fuel, and locker room deodorant. Weather brief, NOTAMs, airspace restrictions, new reporting requirements, then the simulator, then the review of emergency procedures, then a quick gym session, where you do squats not for fitness, but because you are afraid of feeling your body give out before your head again. At the water machine, the flight doc catches you and reminds you about your annual physical. You nod and avoid eye contact because you slept 4 hours, and it shows in the whites of your eyes. In the afternoon, a text comes from your ex. Insurance on her car will no longer be covered by your policy starting next month. You read it, delete your reply, shove the phone into your pocket, and step out onto the blazing ramp to watch another pilot climb the ladder into his jet. He moves easily, almost lazily. You stand there with a bottle of warm water, listening to the engine start, and suddenly realize that now every sortie for you is no longer just work. It is an exam no one is obligated to let you retake. Level 4. The big exercise starts before dawn, when the briefing vault is still dark, but the map is already covered with red and blue arrows, routes, time windows, frequencies, and backup options. They assign you a role in the package. Get airborne, climb to altitude, hold your sector, work the simulated threat, and do not lose the picture. On paper, it is all familiar. In the air, everything gets tighter. AWACS talks fast. Tracks cross on the radar. The noise in your helmet sounds like someone pouring nails into a bucket. You switch modes, confirm lock, shift your eyes to the HUD, back to the radar, to the fuel, to your wingman's position, and in that exact moment you mistake the wrong track for a hostile. The error lasts maybe 3 seconds. That is enough for a sharp correction from the controller to cut into your headset, followed by a cold knock it off from the flight lead. You drop the lock, pull the nose away, level out, but inside something has already fallen through. After landing, the sky over the base looks normal, bright. Ground crews move carts around. Someone is laughing by the oxygen truck. But in your head, that voice is still there. In the debrief, the screen shows how your course crossed with the flight path of a friendly jet. The commander does not raise his voice. He just says that in combat, confusion like that costs more than embarrassment. It costs names on the memorial wall. You sign the counseling form, the pen scratching lightly across the paper because of the tremor in your hand. Then you go into the restroom, lock yourself in a stall, and for a few seconds just press your palms into your eyes. You do not sit there, you do not philosophize. You count breaths, steady yourself, wash your face with cold water, straighten your collar, and step back into the hallway like nothing happened. But it did happen. This is no longer a bird or bad luck. Now the mistake has your name on it. Level 5. You decide to make up for it with discipline. You used to leave after debriefs. Now you stay. You used to eat in the DFAC in peace. Now you sit there with your tablet and checklists while the potatoes go cold on the plastic tray. In the squadron parking lot, your pickup sits next to the newer cars of the other lieutenants, and that irritates you more than it should. Everybody else looks put together, while your cab is full of receipts, empty energy drink cans, and a spare uniform thrown across the back seat. At night, you sit at home going over emergency procedures, and a reminder pops up on your phone. Credit card payment missed. You send the minimum, even though you know the interest is going to catch you anyway. 2 days later, they put you on a night sortie. At medical, the nurse checks your blood pressure and keeps the cuff on your arm a little longer than usual. She asks how much you sleep. You answer, enough. She looks up, but says nothing. Just checks the box and hands your card back. Before the flight, the crew chief gives you your helmet, notices the strap is twisted, and fixes it himself in one quick motion, like you are a student and not an operational pilot. That tiny thing cuts deeper than any official reprimand. On the taxiway, everything looks clean. Moonlight, runway lights, the calm voice of tower. But inside you, there is already extra noise. You check the instruments too often. Switch frequencies too early. Squeeze the stick too hard. After takeoff, your wingman asks you to repeat the call twice because you are swallowing your words. On the way back, you already know you are doing exactly what you were afraid of, trying to overpower lost confidence, and inside a cockpit that always smells less like courage and more like the next mistake. Level 6. The breaking point does not come beautifully or dramatically. It comes during an ordinary maneuver, when everything is supposed to be routine. Altitude, speed, task, nothing new. You roll into the turn, start pulling. The G-suit squeezes your legs and stomach. The blood drains downward, and the world narrows to the instruments and a gray blur ahead. A command comes over the headset, but the words reach you like they are moving through water. You glance at the horizon, and suddenly the horizon looks wrong. For a fraction of a second, you no longer understand where up is and where down is. Instead of the right correction, you make one extra input. The jet answers instantly. Your wingman shouts over the radio, way too loud for a normal training correction. Numbers flash on the panel. Your throat is dry. It is hot under the mask. Your hand slips against the glove because it is wet inside. You force yourself to let go of the extra pressure, level the jet, check the instruments, repeat the setting out loud like you are learning to fly all over again. For a few seconds, everything hangs on that primitive chain of actions. Look, say it, confirm it, correct it. After landing, you do not head into the building right away. You stay in the cockpit while the maintainers set the chocks and pretend to be checking post-flight notes. In reality, you are waiting for your hands to stop shaking so visibly, but the commander is already standing below the ladder. He does not ask anything on the walk over. He just leads you into the debrief room, sets a bottle of water in front of you, and starts the recording. On the screen, you can see the nose of the jet drift the wrong way. You cannot hide that behind a bird strike, or fatigue, or a complicated situation. Your body failed you in the air, and everyone who could never be allowed to see weakness saw it. Level 7. In the morning, you are sitting not in a cockpit, but in the flight surgeon's office where everything is too clean. White blinds, gray desk, a box of tissues, a plastic heart model on the shelf. The doctor slides a questionnaire toward you. Sleep, dizziness, stress, episodes of disorientation, stimulant use, alcohol use. At first, you check the boxes quickly, almost automatically, as if speed might save you from the meaning of it. Then you get to the line about spatial disorientation and freeze. The pen hovers over the paper. Out in the hallway, someone walks past in flight boots. There is a short burst of laughter. A door slams, and somehow that ordinary base morning makes the choice harder. You could lie, get another chance. Pretend it was a one-time overload issue. Instead, you mark yes. Then another yes for chronic sleep deprivation. The doctor does not make a dramatic face. He just turns the questionnaire over, asks a few more dry questions, checks your pulse, shines a light into your eyes, and says that for now you are being placed on DNIF status. Duties not involving flying. The phrase is short, but inside you it feels like a heavy door slamming shut. In the commander's office, what waits for you is not punishment but paperwork. The order, temporary restrictions, a schedule of evaluations, clearance for ground duties only. You sign one sheet after another. The signature on the last one comes out crooked, not because the pen is bad, but because your hand is tired from understanding. Then you take the vault access badge off your neck, place it on the desk, accept a temporary badge for the admin building, and step back outside. Right then, a pair of F-15s are climbing over the runway into the sky. You instinctively lift your head, but they are already too high. Sometimes irreversibility looks exactly like that. Not an explosion, not a shout, just a different badge in your hand. Level 8. Life without flying turns out not to be rest, but a humiliatingly quiet version of the same base. While the others head to briefing in flight suits, you sit in a fluorescent-lit office, moving boxes around on schedules, calling about a broken simulator, filling out safety spreadsheets, and carrying folders between buildings that smell not like jet fuel, but like paper and warmed-up printer plastic. A young captain who was asking you for advice on radio calls just a month ago now casually asks whether you can cover his sortie log. You say, sure, too quickly, so he does not hear how much it cuts. At home, you try to keep up the appearance of order. Wash the flight suit, put the helmet away in the closet. Sort receipts. Set up autopay for rent. Cancel the expensive gym membership. A red balance alert appears on your banking app. On the table is a letter from insurance. Without flight status, part of your additional pay disappears next month. You take out a calculator, total the expenses, cross off the trip to your parents, then take out, then almost automatically open the page with on-base job listings and close it just as fast. It is too early to look. It hurts too much to look. But you are still doing something. After work, you go to the simulator building, ask for extra time, sit down in the dark mock cockpit, and run the same sequence over and over, the one where you fell apart in the air. Your hands sweat even here, in a chair that does not move. The instructor behind the glass says nothing. He just keeps taking notes. On the fourth run, you finally stop yanking the jet with that extra input. It does not put you back on flight status, but at least it gives you the right not to lie to yourself and say you have already quit. Level 9. A few weeks later, the board decision comes through. It is not that you were not expecting it, you were just hoping there might be a loophole inside the envelope. In the board review room, 3 people are sitting there. The group commander, the doctor, and a man from headquarters who knows you only from paperwork. Your file is on the table. Flight hours, remarks, medical records, simulator results, recommendations. They speak calmly, like people discussing not a life, but the distribution of a resource. The wording is dry. You may continue serving, but you are losing combat-coded pilot status. They are offering you a transfer to a training unit. Simulators, instruction, standard procedures. No combat F-15 sorties. Your mouth is already dry before they slide the papers over. You ask a couple of questions, even though you can already hear the answers in their tone. Can it be reviewed in a year? Theoretically. Can you stay in the squadron? In a different role? Can you ever be who you were again? No one answers that one directly, because the system knows how to be polite exactly where it cuts deepest. You open the folder, find the signature line, and look at your hands. Once, they felt like instruments that could handle anything. G-force, heat, night sorties, fear, sleep deprivation. Now, they are just the hands of a man being moved from one floor of life to another. You sign. Then you go to the locker room, take your flight bag off the hook, pull out the gloves, the knee board, the spare visor, and a small photo of yourself standing in front of the jet during your first month after graduation. You leave the photo in the locker for another minute, then take it after all. Some things the system takes with an order, the rest you have to gather yourself. Level 10. The final level of this life does not look like the ending of a movie. There is no music, no speech, no sense that everything came together into the right conclusion. There is only early morning, damp air, cardboard boxes in the apartment, and a helmet you do not know whether to put in the trunk or on the top shelf of the closet. In the kitchen, you finish a cheap coffee while standing barefoot on the cold linoleum. Through the window, you can see the ordinary traffic moving along the highway beyond the base. a school bus, a plumber's pickup, a delivery van. The world stopped revolving around your cockpit a long time ago. That is almost insulting and somehow calming. You drive onto base in your new role, stop at the same gate, and hold up a different badge. The guard scans it the same way and waves you through the same way. Nothing changes in the gesture, even though everything has changed for you. In the training building, you set your helmet on the desk, open the simulator schedule, and mark the names of the people who will be running engine failure drills and spatial disorientation scenarios today. One of them comes in early, makes a nervous joke, cannot get the simulator harness fastened, and without saying anything you reach over and fix the twist in the strap the same way the crew chief fixed yours before that night sortie. Outside the window, you hear a takeoff. The glass trembles slightly. You do not go over to look right away. First, you write the time into the log, close the folder, and slip the pen into your pocket. Then you finally raise your eyes toward the runway. The jet is already gone into the gray sky, leaving only the sound behind, and you accept one simple, unpleasant adult truth. You are not the man you were at the beginning. Not better, not worse, just a man who paid for this uniform not with one beautiful story, but with sleep, with his hands, with his throat, with his pride, and with the silence that follows him now even where the engines are still roaring.